welcome back to the channel. And in this video, I'll be talking about how the pay is changing in the Seattle city and how it's going to be affecting a lot of workers, a lot of gig workers. So not too long ago, in the month of November, we had the extra pay end. So what the extra pay in Seattle was during the COVID period, the Seattle city put an ordinance in so that each worker would be able to get an extra $2.50 per order, and that's the gist of it. I mean, there's a little bit extra if you have add on more orders stacked on top of each other, but for the most part, that's what it was. And you can make an extra $60 to $70 per hour if you average somewhere between 3 and 4 orders per hour for like an 8-hour shift. And I mean, $70, $67, that's a lot. That's good enough to, get yourself groceries for an entire week. So because that ended, I guess someone tried to put on a strike through Reddit, and this not really sure how this turned out because I didn't know about this and I didn't participate either. And what ended up happening, I don't know. I didn't see any big deal about it, but the organization didn't seem that well. It was more so of go ahead and continue doing it, but reject orders that are under $7, reject orders that are under $15 for Instacart or Ship. I don't know. This doesn't sound too great. It was a good attempt, but I'm pretty sure it didn't make the kind of effect that they were looking for. So what's happening now that that is over? Well, the Seattle Council enacted a new ordinance, and that new ordinance, what ends up happening is that it's called PayUp policy, and they are incorporating policies so that the minimum wage is achieved for Seattle. So in Seattle, the minimum wage is about $17.27. And so they created this system of engaged time and engaged miles, so that when you're actually doing the task, you're getting paid 29 cents or so per minute, and 64 cents, well, 38 cents, sorry, and then 64 cents per mile that you drive. So that's going to be pretty interesting for some of these apps. Obviously, the pay is going to be up to par with their minimum wage, and then on top of that, you get tips. So how does that work? Well, if we look at their specific ordinance, it's just going to be the engaged minutes times the equivalent 38 cents or whatever it is, and then also add it onto the miles on top. So they stack on top of each other, and then that's the total you get. And then in addition to that, you're gonna get the tips. So that should be a good amount of pay. That doesn't sound too bad at all. I'm not really sure how these apps are gonna take it because they set up the rules, but the apps are probably gonna try to find a way around it. They're gonna say, hey, we followed exactly what the ordinance says, and then there's probably gonna be a little back and forth. So we'll see how it actually turns out, but on paper, it sounds not too bad at all. The other stuff that's in this ordinance is also going to affect these other apps. So if you're looking to make more money, so great, you'll get that. And then there's this flexibility in terms of rejecting or accepting orders. You cannot get penalized by your acceptance rate. So this app says can't require a specific acceptance rate to stay on the app or get access to good offers. Now that specifically is going to be different for DoorDash, because that's what DoorDash does. And they just rolled out this other feature where you're like staying above 70% and then you start getting good orders. I haven't seen it yet in Seattle. I haven't tried it. But with this ordinance, it does away with that whole thing. And then also there's no penalty for not showing up for like a missed shift. And that specifically is more catered towards Grubhub. That's what Grubhub does. If you don't sign in, a certain time after a shift that you specifically signed up for, then there is a slight penalty. I think the penalty is something like you get last pick next time or something like that. Oh, also this other tip thing. So we got transparency in the time in all the data. So these apps are gonna have to start tracking how many miles you drove after you pick up the order. They're also going to have to track the time from start to finish to do the calculations. They are also going to have to force DoorDash to no longer have hidden tips. You guys call it hidden tips. It's more like a hidden trap, if anything. Okay, so what DoorDash does for you new people is that they will take the tips from the customer that they'll tip onto your order. They'll hide how much the amount is. They'll maybe you got tipped $10. They only add $5 onto your pay, and then they'll put in quotes might be higher, and that tricks uh, delivery drivers to thinking, oh, maybe I'll get something better, and then they'll essentially keep accepting every single order. But that doesn't really work. Most drivers figure it out and they just don't even put up with it. So this does away with it. It's going to be pretty interesting. I'm not sure. Basically, specifically, DoorDash is going to have the hardest time making adjustments. Basically, set up all these whack rules to try to get drivers to accept more orders. And now that Seattle has passed this ordinance, they're just going to do away with them. So we'll see how it goes. This is going to be pretty interesting on how things play out. They split up the ordinance. This ordinance is going to go into effect in 2024. I thought it was going to go into effect 2023, the beginning of this year, but I misread it and it's going into effect next year. So we're not going to really see this, and I think this because they had a couple more ordinances that they wanted to pass, like discrimination and the rules around getting deactivated. Maybe because people get deactivated all over the place, and there's not really an explanation. And because with this ordinance in place, there's probably going to be rules and regulations around it. So this policy is going to be affecting all food delivery drivers. Here are some examples. Grocery shoppers, here are some examples. Instacart, task apps, and then a few others. So this probably does not include Amazon drivers. Doesn't look like it. Or ride sharing drivers they have their own rules. So this is going to be pretty interesting. DoorDash does some wacky things, and it'll be pretty interesting to see how this plays out. But we're not going to see it until another year. And I don't know. We'll do an update on how it goes once this rolls out, and we'll see it in how it actually works in real life. So I'm gonna get back on the road. I was waiting for this ordinance to take in place, but it turns out it's gonna be next year. To see, I'm gonna go back on the road and see what kind of changes are being done. When I take a peek here and there on the pay for DoorDash, they still have the promo very often, almost every day during the peak hours. So an extra like $2 or $3. So maybe it's not that much of a difference, but I'll find out once I get back on the road. So that being said, let me know what you think about this Seattle Pay. Do you have anything like this in your own city? Are you guys lobbying for anything? Maybe you guys have a Facebook group of everybody that's in your city, so that way you can organize things a lot better than this strike that probably failed. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video.